hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today. So today we're joined by Dan Cranebrink from Bytes Software Services and Marlon Oliver from Snow Software, and they'll be going through Snow License Manager 7.
Good morning everyone. Once again, just like to extend my thanks for giving up your time this morning to join us on this webinar. Really the objective of this session is to review Snow License Manager 7, which is the latest release from Snow, and brings with it a host of new features and enhancements along with a new interface for users to access the data which it contains. For those customers on the call who are new to Snow and Bytes, and I'm aware, looking at the attendee list, we actually have a mixture of existing customers and potentially new customers. Bytes really specialise in providing SAM solutions to our customers, and those solutions can really range from one-off point-in-time reviews to help customers understand their current license positions for specific vendors, process analysis to allow customers to look at best practice and make sure that their current SAM-related processes are in line with that best practice, and all the way up to sort of fully outsourced or managed services where customers effectively outsource the SAM function to a third party, in this case Bytes. In many of these engagements, we leverage the capabilities of the Snow technology to deliver reports back to our customers, and we also utilize that interface internally. So with that effect, you know, the Snow technology really underpins our managed services and solutions which we deliver. Bytes also provide the Snow technology both as a on-premise solution or indeed as a in-the-cloud or software as a service solution. So whether you want to look at a traditional on-premise option where you guys or where a customer takes responsibility for managing that technology, or you want to outsource that to a third party, that can be looked at as well. At this point, I'm just going to hand over to Marlon. He's going to kind of go through the areas where they see that they add value, and also give you an overview of the solution so you guys can actually get to see the interface itself. So Marlon, over to you.
Thank you, Dan. Well, I'd just like to extend the thanks for those who've taken some time out to join. Just to introduce myself, I'm Marlon, and I've been with Snow for coming on 5 years now, and it's been an exciting journey that we've been on, and there's been a real evolution in terms of how the product itself and the Snow platform has moved along. So I'm encouraged to hear that we've got some existing customers on the call. Hopefully this would be an opportunity for you to get to see the new License Manager 7 platform, and also encouraged obviously to understand that there are prospective customers on the call. So because we've got a real mix of, in terms of the audience on the webinar today, what I'd like to do is just put some context around effectively just discussing some of the core areas we believe where we add value. And ultimately, I think the core areas that customers need to look at in terms of effectively delivering license optimization and the broader software asset management, or improving those aspects within their own internal organizations. So we're going to look at 5 key areas. We're going to talk about some of the challenges in those areas, and also how we can add value in those areas, and maybe it just gives you some opportunity to think about what you're doing internally, and maybe it will raise something that you've not really thought about. And then I'll go into the actual product itself, the License Manager 7 platform. I will do an overview of the platform, and as part of that overview, I will also specifically look at some of the new features that we've added. I would ask you to bear with me because we've added in excess of about 160 new features. So we don't have a lot of time today to go through each particular feature in a lot of detail. So for those existing customers who really want to get underneath the bonnet in terms of specifically looking at the details, I'd encourage you to touch base with your Bytes account manager or with your account manager at Snow, and we can arrange a session where one of our consultants can get into the details with you. So moving along, I think the first phase, as we all appreciate, in terms of wanting to improve or sort of tackle the area of software asset management, is clearly still in the discovery phase. Now, the discovery phase is clearly something that most people think they've underpinned. But the challenge we see today, and we get to engage with hundreds of customers globally on a monthly basis, and typically organizations have invested these days in some form of discovery capability, whether that's some form of systems management tool or a very sort of niche discovery tool. But the challenge that people face is the number of mechanisms that applications are being able to be delivered to the endpoint, i.e. the whole virtualization and Hyper-V technologies that have been released into the market, whether that is Hyper-V or VMware or cloud and software as a service and Citrix and all these different mechanisms where the application isn't even running on the local machine. So the actual standard inventory systems can't actually collect the information about the application that's actually been accessed by a user. So the challenge remains is really trying to get into that virtual world and the software as a service world and collect the relevant information that you would be able to take and effectively reconcile with what you've purchased. So that still remains a big challenge for organizations. Most organizations have multiple sources of inventory. And the challenge is that some of those inventory sources don't cover multi-platform. So we're in a world where you could be running Windows, you could be running Unix, Linux, all different platforms within your environment. And a lot of times, if organizations have invested, for instance, in System Center, it doesn't cover all of their platforms, and it doesn't effectively give them discovery in their virtual platforms. So ultimately, the discovery phase is an area where Snow can add value, in so much as that we do have the ability to connect to existing inventory sources. I know sometimes that goes amiss in presentations, but we do have something called an EDP, which can connect to SCCM or Altiris or Landisk or BMC or HP or whatever inventory sources that you have, and we can leverage those investments that you've made. But we can also add value in the areas that you might not have discovery, for instance, in your VMware ESX environment or your Hyper-V or cloud. So we can either fully complement, you have a decision to fully deploy the Snow Agent to give you one constant discovery system. We can work alongside your discovery and complement it by adding the Snow Agent. It's a multi-tenanted platform. So that's the particular area that I just wanted to clarify that's important as part of the overall journey. The next element that people struggle with is still delivering compliance. When we engage with most customers and we ask them, are you doing software asset management, most customers say yes. And when we get into the detail of what they actually mean by that, typically customers are doing software asset management on one or maybe 5 manufacturers. And typically it's Microsoft, and typically it's a true-up once a year, and the rest of the year it's a bit of, nobody understands their compliance at any point in time on any other vendor. So the challenge that people face is all the manual processes that need to occur within the business to actually produce a compliance report. So in effect, customers, for instance, have to go and get data from their system centers, application, tools. They've got to try and make sense of that data. A lot of organizations we engage with don't trust the data that's coming from their inventory sources. It's limited, as I discussed. They don't even have discovery in all of these areas. And ultimately, then they've got to manually reconcile that with some data in a spreadsheet. So the actual process to actually run a compliance report on any manufacturer is very time-consuming and extremely challenging for most organizations. So the Snow License Manager platform gives you the ability to automate the reconciliation of entitlement with what you've got installed. And that puts you in a very good position in terms of having robust conversations with manufacturers in terms of really understanding what you've got installed against what you're using against your entitlement. And that's really important. And a lot of organizations that we speak to have their license entitlement in multiple repositories, online repositories, Excel spreadsheets, procurement systems, and it's very difficult for them to actually pull all of this information and manually reconcile it with multiple discovery sources too. So there's a massive challenge there. So the Snow License Manager platform enables you and gives you a central repository where you can capture and import all of your entitlement. One of the new features within Snow License Manager 7 is the automated import of the Microsoft MLS report. So most of customers on the call who've got a volume license agreement, you could request your MLS or your Claret report from Microsoft, and effectively that can get imported into the Snow License Manager platform automatically as part of the new enhancements that we've made. And we can engage with other manufacturers and get other vendor statements and import that into the Snow License Manager platform, which will then automatically reconcile what you've purchased against what you've got installed and what's being used, and automatically applying all the relevant upgrade and downgrade intelligence and software assurance so that you can appropriately run your compliance reports. But it's an extremely challenging area. And the other area that I just quickly want to focus on is the software recognition. So people effectively get all this discovery data, and then they've got to try and make sense of it. Because most discovery tools or systems management tools can't really differentiate, for instance, between licensable and non-licensable software. So you do an audit and you get 10,000 rows of data, and you've got to try and make sense of this data. So the Snow License Manager platform effectively has the ability to, customers have the ability to subscribe to our software recognition service. We've actually launched a video that explains the value of that service on our website. So if you go to www.snowsoftware.com and go to the software recognition service, you can view a little video that explains the value of it. But in essence, what it does is anything that's unrecognized within your environment automatically gets sent to our software recognition service desk. And what we do is we analyze the files, the relevant files, and appropriately recognize that application on your behalf, i.e. the application name, the manufacturer, whether it requires a license, the release date, the application family it belongs to, and effectively act as a virtual, it's an extension of your internal teams to ensure that you can trust the data that we view in the license management platform, not in the first instance, but on an ongoing basis. As we all know, licensing rules change all the time. There's new versions of software being released all the time, and this software recognition service is there to support you, to enable you to go to management with these reports and have a lot of confidence in the reports that we actually produce, so that you can produce those compliance reports. The other area of challenge for most organizations is optimization. It seems like a pipe dream for most customers when we engage with them. Most customers, and software asset management isn't a new subject, and we've probably got people on the call who have been doing it for years, but it still seems to be quite the nirvana for most organizations to talk about optimization. And typically the challenge is largely they don't really track the use of all software within their environments. And they're typically limited by the systems management tools or the inventory tools that have basic features of tracking usage, but it's fairly limited, and typically they have quite a big impact on the network and the end user's experience of using their computers, and therefore it's a challenge because IT staff don't want to go and configure it because it's quite a manual process by doing it at an executable level for every single application. Procurement and contract people know that there's software out there that's not being utilized and could probably be reharvested and save the organization a lot of money. So there's this real tussle between the two departments in terms of knowing but not being able to empower those procurement people to change their buying behavior because they've got limited usage information. You can leverage the Snow technology to get full metering on all software by default. Okay, and we can go into a lot of detail around how that works and the impact, but most organizations going on the journey want to save money. They want to change their buying behavior. That's the exciting part of software asset management. It's actually delivering, significant cost savings and controls within your business. But you can't do it if you don't understand what people are using. So I think we offer a really good solution, and we can get into, I'll show you some of the reports in the system whereby we can enable you to track the usage so that we can empower you to make renewal decisions, new purchase decisions based on what you're using rather than ultimately what you've got installed. There's an element of then enabling customers to really drive their systems management tools, SCCM, Landisk, Altiris, BMC, HP, CA, Novell, whatever you're using, to drive the uninstallation of the software that you're not utilizing to effectively act upon the report that you get within the Snow application. But that enables you to do cost management. And then lastly, there's this whole concept of cost prevention. And we're going on that journey right now where we're thinking about, well, we need to enable customers to save money before they've spent it. A lot of times you can get a report saying, well, you've already made some poor decisions in the past, and now you can fix it. But what we want to move towards is really enabling you to go and simulate and say, well, we're making some of these infrastructure changes. If we move to this agreement with Bytes, how would that impact our licensing costs? So that's a journey we're going on, and you'll start seeing that coming into the product as we launch future releases too. The ability to actually go and link your license manager platform to your procurement systems, so that when you raise an order in a procurement system, that it's automatically uploaded into License Manager. But the challenge remains is that most people are still in this discovery phase and struggling in this particular baseline area where they don't really trust their discovery. It's limited. Their compliance is manual. We've got spreadsheets, multiple sources. So to enable you to get to this optimization and cost prevention, I believe that the Snow License Manager 7 platform will really empower customers to get onto that journey quicker. Without further ado, I'll stop with the actual slides now and just go straight into the actual Snow License Manager platform. So if I just quickly sign out, I think it's really important to note that what we've tried to do is make it even more user-friendly. Now, for most of you who've been around and maybe seen other license management platforms that are out there, I think Snow License Manager is probably the most user-friendly system in the market. But we've taken it a step further. We want to effectively extend the access of the rich information within this platform to others, to multiple areas within the IT organization, because I think multiple people can benefit, because most people want to understand what they've got within their environments and run certain reports and get the odd phone call on a Friday saying, I need this report, and don't have access to one single system which could possibly enable that report to be automated. So what you'll notice for those existing Snow customers is that we've totally changed the actual interface of the Snow License Manager platform. What we've introduced now is what we call the Snowboard, which effectively is your ability as a customer to see the data that you want to see. And these Snowboards are totally customizable, and effectively it's based on the person that's logging on to Snow. There's nothing worse than logging on to an application and just seeing everybody else's information. When you log on to an application, you want to see the information that means something to you now, immediately. And effectively what we can do is we can go and have multiple snowboards, so you have the ability to go in and effectively edit what you see instantly as information and sound bits of information that you want to access by adding widgets. So you can go and add charts. Maybe you're a contracts person. You want to understand, for instance, how many license purchases you're making every month. Maybe you want to see computer operating systems, or whatever you want to see. Effectively, you can have that presented as soon as you log on to the Snow License Manager platform. So you're no longer restricted, as in with the previous version, with the information that we provided you. And you can move the information about if you want to. If we just go there, you can move this and group all of the data as you would like to see it. So first of all, what we try to do is just make the information available to the person that's logging on immediately. What you'll also notice is that when you log on to the Snow License Manager platform, you're going to be able to report on what applications you have within your business, what hardware, whether it's physical, virtual, laptop, desktop, terminal, data center, users, what contracts you've got, what licenses you've purchased, and reports. So for those existing Snow customers, you'll notice it's a fairly similar trend in terms of the tabs and the information that you can drill down into. If we go to the actual alerts within the Snow License Manager platform, you'll notice that we've added some more alerts. Now, these alerts are designed to proactively notify you about things that you probably care about, right? So if we go into some of these ones, you'll notice some of the previous versions ones where we want to proactively notify you, for instance, when an agreement's going to expire. Or we want to proactively notify you when there's software in your business that isn't being used, right? You don't want to find out when you're going through an audit, or you don't want to find out when you're going through a trip. You proactively want to be notified on these things. But what you'll notice for some of the new alerts is proactively notifying you when there's new installations occurring within your business. People installing new software. Maybe that's not gone through the approval process. Maybe you proactively want to be notified when there's computers in Active Directory, but they don't have a Snow agent on them. So you can, we've introduced, we've got an Active Directory scanner now for those of you who have Active Directory within your organizations. We can effectively deploy the Snow Active Directory scanner, and we can run a report which says, show me all the machines in Active Directory that aren't within the Snow application. And then show me all the machines within Snow that aren't in Active Directory. So that really just enables the benefit to customers, is really making sure that you've got a real good representation. People talk about the 80-20 rule, but really moving you towards a 95-100% view of your estate and making sure that you've got the Snow. The reports really include most of your environment. Proactively notifying you, for those of you who haven't seen the Snow License Manager platform, about risk. You proactively want to know when you move to an under-licensed position on any piece of software. You proactively want to be notified when you move to an over-licensed position on any piece of software. So these other things, like you want to proactively know when people are popping up a virtual server in the data center that doesn't have a Snow agent on. Because they could have SQL data center license requirements on the SQL Server that's installed on that server, which they've not verified with the procurement team. So you can really go and enable the Snow platform to proactively notify you things about that really mean something to you as an individual that's logging onto the platform. Something new on the alerts too is what you'll notice is that the alerts, if there's anything that's changing, it will say new, so it will flag up. So if it says you've got 50 new applications installed that week, you'll notice that there's a new flag that appears. But you can drill down. For those of you who haven't seen Snow, for instance, one of those alerts would be the fact that you've got 325 applications that are installed across 2,500 separate installations that require licenses that do not have any registered usage. So what you want to do is you want to go into that and effectively go and group all of your licensable applications that people aren't using so that you can get a figure for what your potential cost savings could be. A lot of people find it very difficult to actually convert usage into pounds and pennies. What does it actually mean? And the Snow License Manager platform automatically does that for you. Because telling you whether you're not using 20 applications is quite academic. But if I told you that that was actually worth 50 grand, that means something more to you, and it gets your management excited too. So what you'll notice for those of you who use License Manager, that we've actually changed the actual look and feel of the actual tabs within the system. So what you'll notice if we look at this particular application, what we can see is that you've got 7 installations of Visio 2003 Professional. You need one person's using it. You purchase 7 licenses. You've got 7 licenses, so you're compliant. So what you can go and see is you can go and see in which departments those installations are. You can see which 7 computers has it installed on. You can drill down onto the computer. And we've changed this view too. So immediately when you look at a computer, you can see how many applications are installed on that computer, how many people are using that computer, what's the cost of the total cost of that asset, and when it was last audited, the detail of every application, the usage of application, who's using it, the hardware information, etc., etc. In terms of the financial information, we can see what the total value of licensable software is on that machine, and we can also capture, for those of you who don't know, the hardware cost of that particular machine too. So you can actually deliver an element of hardware asset management, license management, and contract management from a single platform. Okay, so you can really realize the value of that particular asset. Something new that we've added into the Snow License Manager platform too is, in effect, the ability to extend and not be restricted to any license metric or model. So ultimately, if we look at things like in the previous version, we weren't able to cater for PVU licensing as an example, but what we've done now is we've effectively extended our ability to IBM's ILMT product into the Snow License Manager platform. Most organizations have deployed ILMT because it's a requirement from IBM, specifically when you're going through that particular audit. So if I go edit application, you'll notice if I wanted to go and add a particular license for an IBM application, that IBM PVU licensing is a standard license metric now within the Snow License Manager platform. The other capabilities that we've added is extended our capability to get into the virtual environments, and it'll be interesting to find out, obviously on an individual basis, whether the existing Snow customers actually have extended the use of the Snow License Management platform in their virtual environments. What we have is a VMware ESX scanner, which can effectively plug straight into the vCenter. It's a read-only view. So when we pull that information through, what we have the ability to do is view your virtual data center. So what we can see is that you've got 3 servers, 3 ESX servers. We can see how many virtuals are hanging off the ESX servers, processor type, count, and core processor. What we can see is what applications are being delivered from these ESX servers to these virtual machines, and effectively what features are you using within the VMware ESX environment, which can really be useful in a VMware audit. And effectively what we can see is the licenses that we've purchased for this particular data center, which can be applied and assigned to that particular data center. We've also extended that view to include, for instance, Zen server. So we have the ability to see which Zen servers you have. We've extended that to Hyper-V, so VMM, and we can see which Hyper-V servers. So all of the different virtual technologies, we're able to empower you to get that information so that we can reconcile that against your entitlement so that you can manage these complex things, including the likes of VDI and VDA licensing. So if we quickly have a look at an example, if we go to reports, we can go and say, let's look at some VDI reports. What you'll notice for those existing customers is that we've enhanced our reporting capability. So instead of you having to scroll down and effectively look for the report, we've included a search option. So you can just type in VDI and effectively it will just bring up all the VDI reports. And if we just run that particular report, you can go and see which applications per VDI computer. So if we drill down onto a particular VDI, you'll notice under the Remark tab, we can highlight that this Windows 7 Enterprise is covered with VDI. And if we turn that around and we look at, for instance, going to look at operating systems, so if we just go to application reports, we can go to, for instance, go and look at what operating systems you have within the actual business. And if we go to just looking at Windows 7 as an example, what you'll notice is that Snow has the ability, we can see that you've got 97 installations of Windows 7 Enterprise. But we're saying that your license requirement is actually 84. And the reason why we can pick that up is we know that you covered with 10 because you got your VDI. So ultimately, the ability, so the new feature within the Snow is the ability to capture that level of information to enable you to save money and to benefit, from your software assurance that you procure and the different volume license agreements that you invest in. Now, if we go to import, I don't have a copy of MLS with me at the moment, but effectively you could just go to license import, do a field match, which takes a few minutes, and then import the Microsoft MLS. Once we've imported, for instance, the Microsoft MLS agreement, you'd be able to see it under your agreements. So if we go to the overview page, we can see how many contracts you have, how many are going to be expiring. You can drill down into the particular agreement, and when you look at your enterprise agreement, you can now see what types of products have you purchased under that enterprise agreement, when you've purchased it, whether you've purchased a software assurance, whether you've got upgrade or downgrade rights for those particular applications. You got Windows Server 2008 User Cal, or you've got SharePoint, or whatever the case might be. Once we've imported that, you can also edit your agreements. So you could specify the agreement name, the number, the agreement period, who's your contact, effectively when do you proactively want to be notified, the description, documents. You can scan and attach the physical document. Once we've captured that entitlement, all you do is click Recalculate Compliance. Because we know what you've got installed and we know effectively what's being used, and we know now what you've purchased, we can reconcile that. And what you're able to do then at that particular point is effectively going to be able to go and run your Microsoft compliance report. So if you just go and type in under the search field Microsoft, it will come up, and you have the ability to go and say, what is my Microsoft compliance look like? One thing that I was really excited about in terms of a new feature, especially in enabling you to really sort of manage your application portfolio, is what we've added is something called application manufacturers. So if we go to application manufacturers, what you'll notice is that, let's say you were doing a review with your large account reseller and Microsoft, you can effectively go and type in Microsoft, and you can click on it. And what you'll notice is in one single view, you'd be able to see automatically what is your top Microsoft technology that you've got deployed, what is your top spend in terms of per application for Microsoft, what applications within your Microsoft technology stack are licensable, what's the value of your investment, and ultimately what's your compliance position, what Microsoft technology have you got deployed that doesn't require a license, what agreements do you have for Microsoft? Is it an Office 365 subscription with an enterprise agreement and a select agreement? And what licenses you've purchased, all in one single view. And the cool thing about that is that as change occurs within your environment, i.e. new installations, uninstallations, usage changes, new purchases are added, that's dynamically refreshed. There's no need for you to have to concern yourself with trying to make sense of discovery data, having limited information, not having the virtual platforms dynamically linked to your license manager platform. No need for you to then manually reconcile that with your spreadsheet. No need for you then to manually apply software assurance to hopefully get to a position, only for it to be rendered worthless once you've produced the report, because by the time you've produced the report, things have changed within the environment. So having a platform that's dynamically linked to possibly existing discovery sources through our EDP, as I said, we can connect to existing inventory sources. Maybe you choose just to deploy the Snow Agent because actually you want the multi-platform, you want consistency. Maybe you want a hybrid, but you've got that discovery element which is effectively feeding License Manager. Then it's being massaged and managed with our software recognition service. So you have the ability to, for instance, go to list all applications and say, I want to go and see all my licensable Adobe software. So I want to go to Adobe and show me all my licensable Adobe. So that you can get into Creative Cloud. That's something that's really cool. We can differentiate between Creative Cloud, a standard install of Creative Suite, or an eval copy. We can get into the bundle components and see, okay, you're subscribing to this components, but your people, or at least the staff, are only using these particular individual components. Is it really adding value? Is it the right investment that you've made within the application? And I think we can extend that, because if we go into, we could say, the first step we encourage customers to do is, first of all, people just want to really get a view of what they've got for the first time, really. They want to go out there and say, we want to engage, we want to get this deployed, we want to understand what we've got out there and how it's been used. Once we've understood that position, we want to start taking it in a phased approach and picking off our commercially licensed manufacturers and get entitlement in that. And Bytes have wrapped significant amounts of experience in terms of all of they've got a really significant team of licensed experts which you can leverage to effectively make sure that the entitlement is right, because I'm a firm believer in rubbish in, rubbish out. So once you've got that entitlement, to get it into the Snow License Management platform so that you can effectively start running your compliance. But very quickly, you could go and say, show me all of our licensable manufacturers that we've got deployed and group it by manufacturer. So there's a list of all of our licensable manufacturers. Another thing that I'm not sure if existing customers leverage, but as part of our software recognition service that's dynamically linked to our platform, it enables you to group software, for instance, by type. What types of software do we have across the estate? I was engaged with a customer yesterday. They've got 40 operating companies underneath a group. Every operating company purchases software on their own capacity. they've realized that they should probably leverage the benefit of the group purchase and buy volume license agreements. And a key aspect to them is to get a discovery exercise completed, find out what they're using, and also find out, is there any duplication? Why are we using 6 different backup applications? Or why are we using 8 different business intelligence applications across the business with multiple support agreements? So really getting a view of what types of applications you've got out there enables you to further standardize, further reduce costs, not even just software costs, but training costs and other internal costs that you might incur within the actual business. What you'll notice within the new version of the Snow application is we've also added the administrative overview. Looks a bit different, and we've given you the ability to go and specify what web applications you want to track. So the challenge people face is, as I said earlier, they've got discovery tools, but it doesn't effectively track the usage of applications that are accessed in the browser. So the Snow agent can be used in that instance, and we can extend that. So if you've made a significant investment in Office 365, but you want to track whether people are actually using it or not, you could leverage the Snow platform. But you'll also notice that we've also added something called application whitelisting and blacklisting. So blacklisting has always been there. You've had the ability to go and say, I want to know when people are installing games or file sharing and whether they're using it. And people got quite excited about that. But what we've also added is application whitelisting. Your ability to go and say, actually, we approve of these applications, and we're going to call them whitelisted, blacklist the rest. So it really helps you to see the wood from the trees in terms of being able to understand what's out there in your environment that shouldn't really be there, what's unmanaged, what's unsupported. Because it's very difficult to do that when you get a spreadsheet from an inventory tool with 20,000 rows of data in it. So not just actually having richer data, but then further being able to disseminate that information into useful information. Now you can automatically blacklist all non-whitelisted applications. You have the ability, if you're starting from a fresh start, you might want to go, well, let automatically whitelist all the licensable applications with at least 50 installations within our business. So if it's quite largely proliferated within the organization, then yeah, extend the use of that. But ultimately, we can, you can decide how you want to use that management of that information. We've also extended I would encourage you to also go onto our website. We run a blog where we share a lot of information about the new features in the system. You can join us on our LinkedIn community where we also share a lot of updates. But a new feature we've added within the Snow application is also your ability to import incomplete licenses. So what I mean by that is a lot of times people don't have all their entitlement that they need. And in the previous versions of Snow, we said to the customer, well, if you've got the perfect information, then you can import it and then we can run a compliance on it. But if you didn't have that information, then, you know, sorry, you've got to get it right before we put it into our platform. But we give a customer the ability now to import licenses which don't necessarily have all the relevant information. And the cool thing is it won't actually use that entitlement in your compliance reports, but at least it gives you the ability to store the data in the License Manager platform and enables you to at least have that repository. And obviously as you engage with your manufacturers and your suppliers and get that information, you can then fully complete it, and then it will be constituted as proper proof of entitlement and then effectively be useful in your compliance reports. But that's something I'll quickly mention. We don't have a lot of time to actually go into the detail of that, but it's something that it was worth mentioning. As I mentioned earlier, we also don't want to restrict customers to any particular license model. So we've created something called custom compare value types. And as we've engaged with software or customers, I would say, in various sectors, oil and gas, manufacturing, you know, finance, there's very niche applications, you know, specific, like for instance in oil and gas, we've got one customer has got a software application that tracks, how much oil is in a pipe, which has got a very bespoke license metric. So what we've effectively included within the Snow License Manager 7 platform is the ability to automate a lot more and create different license metrics, which you could use to leverage and to really cover, all the different license types that you have challenges with in terms of being able to have to go back to those manufacturers and produce compliance reports with. I would encourage you, if you really use the system, to get in touch, as I said earlier, with your Snow account manager or your Bytes account manager to get into the detail of that, especially if you have some real challenges or niche applications which you currently can't manage in the previous version of Snow License Manager, to see if we can extend that. But I'm conscious that we've got 10 minutes to go, but just as a quick overview, what you're able to do, for those of you who are seeing this for the first time, have got no concept of it, is be able to effectively easily track what applications you've got out there in your environment. You can go and easily see, for instance, what computers they're running on. You could group all of your assets by department, by operating system. You can quickly go and find, which of those machines are virtual, for instance. So the richness and the simplicity of the application in terms of finding out where the application is installed, which users using it, tied to which license, tied to which agreement, and giving you that 360 view is instead of you having to go into multiple systems within your business, is really something where organizations feel that we add tremendous amounts of value. And then ultimately you can go into the application and go and run multiple reports. And every single report within our system you can effectively customize. Okay? And you'll notice that there's a column selector, and you can drop and drag columns, you can search for fields, and every single report within the platform, you have the ability to schedule that report. For those existing customers who don't know, you also have the ability now to share data to not just in an email to everyone in a particular format, but if you wanted to extend this and take it into a service desk or another system, you could send the data into a file share and effectively get the third-party tool to suck that information from that file share into another system. So there's automated scheduled reporting. But I definitely believe we've taken some significant steps in our ability to, go and help you optimize, for instance, in your Oracle, your Oracle estates. Giving you a view, for instance, a lot of customers have investments in Oracle, but actually they've just got SCCM as a discovery tool. So they can't actually get into the details of an Oracle database, being able to see, for instance, what server it's running on. Let me just get some an Oracle database that has got some information on. Just bear with me. Let's try this one. So what we can see over here is we've got a Java-based agent which you can deploy into your Oracle estate. It's multi-platform, Solaris, HPUX, etc., AIX. And we can effectively go and see what users are using the Oracle database, what options are actually being utilized. As we all know, there's some significant investments that organizations make in Oracle. And the cost savings that we can help you identify is significant. We know that these features with these option packs and management packs could be anywhere between 10 and 15,000 pounds per option pack or management pack. And if it's not being utilized, maybe you want to configure your Oracle databases to effectively use the features that you're actually using. Because if you got audited, you would have to cover and pay for those management packs and option packs. And we've extended the reporting. We don't have a lot of time to go into that right now, But if we just type in Oracle as an example, you can see there's a whole new bunch of new reports, including those who are aware of the Oracle Server Worksheet, which is effectively the report that you would need to produce if you were going through an Oracle audit. Once again, we've got quite a bit of information on our website with all the new features. Hopefully this has been a useful exercise, even if it was just to get a feel for what the new License Manager platform looks like. And I would encourage you, if you want to get into all 160 new features, to engage once again with the relevant BITES contact or SNOW contact, so that we can focus on maybe the specific requirements and the specific challenges or the specific queries that you have. But at this stage, I'd just like to open it up to Sarah and just find out if there's been any questions that people want to raise. I will try and answer the question within the application. If I can't, we'll take a note and get back to you and get that sorted.
Thanks, Marlon. Dan speaking again. We have had a couple of questions, which I'm not sure we'll have time to go through all of them. If we do not get the opportunity to go through your specific question, then obviously I will take an action to respond to you directly to answer that question. So, Marlon, I'm just going to read a couple of questions out to you, if that's okay. So the first one is just around how SNOW can understand the different bundles from Adobe and Microsoft perspective with specific relation to the Mac estate, and has that been improved in any way on the new 7.0 platform?
Yeah, I mean, if we go and look at an example within the system, just so that everybody can be brought up to speed.
Sorry, Marlon, I'm just going to give the screen back to your control. I don't believe everyone can see it, so just bear with me 1 second.
Okay. Okay.
There we go.
So if we go into License Manager and you wanted to go and look for a bundle application, we could type in this example that we just used, we can say Microsoft. And what we can go and do is go license required, and we can say that's part of a bundle. We can see all the bundled Microsoft applications, and let's just specifically focus, as an example, on Office. Now what we have the ability to do is go and differentiate whether that Office bundle is running on a Mac or if it's running on a normal Windows machine. If we go to the just sort of Office 2000 Professional Plus, you'll notice that there's a tab called Bundle Content, and we can automatically tell you which components are installed. This is a big challenge for customers, and in this particular instance, you might want to question why you bought Professional Plus when people are only using Word, Excel, Outlook, the standard sort of components. So in terms of the new release, I think what we've added in terms of features is specifically the bundles specifically around things like Adobe Creative Cloud, the ability to track those. So that's a new feature. But in terms of our consistency, whether it was on a Mac or on a Wintel platform, in terms of getting the bundling sorted, it's exactly the same, and it works.
Okay, thanks, Marlon. I'm just going to move on to the next question, if that's okay, if we've got time for one or two more. So there's another question here relating to, does SNOW enable you to assign purchase licenses to certain groups of computers so that you can track compliance for different business sections or cost centers?
Yes.
Okay, so nice short answer there.
Yeah, well, it's a standard, yeah, it's a standard.
A standard function, absolutely. There is a couple of questions around confirming the website address for obtaining further information on SNOW, and BITES will take an action to send it out to all people that have attended this webinar. I think we've got time for one final question around how SNOW integrates with Active Directory, and is there a need for a specific EDP installation, or will that be delivered via the agent?
It's effectively an agent. And for those who are interested in getting a copy of that agent, I'll just encourage you to reach out to the Snow UK support desk and put a request in. And what I'll do for those who want to understand how it works, I can send some documentation across to Dan this afternoon, and he can send that out to each individual.
Thanks, Marlon. So unfortunately, we haven't had the opportunity all the time to go through every single question, but as I said, we will follow up on each and every one of those today and get back to the people who actually asked those questions. I'd like to take the opportunity once again to thank you for your time. I hope you found this session useful and giving you insight into this new version that Snow have brought to the market. Please do get in touch with us if you want to talk about upgrading your existing system for if you're an existing customer of Snow or indeed Bytes. Or alternatively, if you're not a Snow customer at the moment, please do get in touch with us if you'd like to look at it further and perhaps looking at using this across your business. So finally, once again, thanks for your time.